Oh, it says that we are now live. My apologies. I was looking at the other window and I didn't think we were live yet, but we are indeed live. So, hello and welcome everyone to this Facebook Live in the Joyful Business Club. My name is Serena Bird and I'm founder of the Joyful Business Club. If you like this discussion, make sure to subscribe to the Joyful Business Club channel on YouTube. This will appear on YouTube later, and there's also some other fabulous content, including my guest today, who is a repeat visitor. Hello, Misty.
Hi, Serena. I'm so excited to be here.
Now, if you don't know Misty, you should. If you're in Canberra and you do networking, I'd be very surprised if you didn't know networking. Misty, because she's one of the most famous people in Canberra, and that's because she's an avid networker. See? She is the queen of networking. And Misty is an international sales, marketing and networking coach. And today we're going to talk about sales, but one specific aspect of sales.
Yes, we're talking about pre-selling. So how to pre-sell your thing.
So can you actually pre-sell things before they're ready? Like a lot of people sort of think, oh, well, I don't really have anything to sell yet. I don't have the book written. I don't have the product. It hasn't been developed yet. I can't sell it yet.
Yeah, so the answer is yes. That is the best time to sell something. So when you have an idea and you want to do something with it, whether it be write a book or make a program, an online program or some sort of program, selling it first becomes really, it tells you if people want it. So being able to sell it first tells you if people want it. It gives you the momentum to get that done, tells you how many people are after it as well, gives you the cash in order to do it. There is a bit of a two-way side on that. You get the cash to create the program. On the other hand, you can't kind of spend the cash until you've handed the program out. Make sure that that's
really? You don't want to just run off to Rio with all the cash that people have given you for writing your book?
Yeah, but once people start handing in that money, it does give you that momentum to do it, and you start to feel, oh gosh, I do have this responsibility for the crowd now, so I am not going to spend it to do it. But in regards to writing a book, there are things that that cost to write a book. It could be editing. It's definitely the printing. So I recommend anyone that's writing a book should be pre-selling it first. There is no way that you should be spending your own money to get a book printed when you're going to sell it afterwards anyway. So to pre-sell it, I did this with my first book. I looked at it and said, oh, how much does it cost to get the book made? How many do I need to sell to get that minimum run order? So the minimum run was I think 250 for me for my first book. And then so I went back and gone, okay, I need to sell a minimum 100 to pay for that. So then the idea was to sell that 100. Once the book was then created, written, then all I had, and it had to just go to the printer. Once all of that was done, it had to go to the printer. Then I could use that pre-sale money to pay for it to go to the printer, knowing that that was going to come back. I could hand that straight out to the people as well. So that's how it was done. There is some cool stuff about pre-selling, right? So there's particular outcomes that you don't know at the time until after it's happened. So one is it gives you momentum. Oh my God, people actually want this. This is exciting. People are listening to me. People like me. So you get that encouragement and the confidence that comes from that. The other side of it is, particularly if you're, let's say if you're an author or you want to write a book, most authors, this is the process. I'm going to write a book. I'm not going to tell anyone about it. I'll wait until it's come out. I'll get it printed. I'll have a book launch and everybody will buy. What happens is when you do a book launch and then tell everybody sort of on the spot, you have to come to my book launch, I've written a book, all your friends, your family members, everyone says, oh my God, of course I'll be there. That's amazing. They get there and your intention is that they'll buy the book. They pick up the book and they go, oh, wow, that's amazing. You've got it. And in their head, they're going, I'm not going to read it to, but that's amazing. Everybody else will buy it. And then they buy it. And then you're going, see, nobody wants that. It's not that nobody wanted it. It's just that now that we, that whole judge a book by its cover, now that we have it, we will judge whether or not we'll read it, not understanding. Friends and family don't understand once the book has been made that they should own the book because you wrote it. But in a pre-sale, it's so easy. You should have it because I'm writing a book. You need to have a first edition. I'm so excited. You're going to help make me famous. Your friends are there going, of course I want that book. Great. Let me take your cash now. right? That's the order of it, because now they've gone, I've got a copy. Whether or not they read it in that initial first people, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that they've got it and that they can tell people, my best friend wrote a book. They can read it when they want to. The truth is a lot of us love books but don't get around to reading them. But sometimes holding it, I know with my books, it was called Overcoming Obscurity. A lot of people, this is kind of like sales training in do-it-yourself format, right? I have a lot of people buy it saying, God, I don't even get a chance to read. But they carry it around, they have it on their desk going, I could get to it, that will give me and just having it is enough to give people ideas, and you can jump into it. It can get you into reading when you're ready as well. But the first group of people need to have it because you made it. And of course, that helps you get it printed. Of course, now you get to say bragging rights, you've helped me become famous. And so those extra things, those really cool things come from those pre-sales.
Thank you for that. I want to acknowledge that we've got Janine at Wanderlust on the line, as well as Kylie Manwaring.
Oh, hi, Janine. Hi, Kylie. How are you?
Today we're talking about pre-selling with Misty, and particularly talking about her next book that she is now working on. So what is your book about?
So my next one, it's called How to Go From No Sales to Sales. So it is a sales book for sole traders, for network marketers, for startups. Could be for, let's say young accountants that would like to become partner, like to be partner. So they're young, they need to get clients in order to be partner. So this will help you. Sales is not about how to sell to the person who walks in the room. It's how to get someone to walk in the room, listen to what you have to say, and choose to buy. And once they know what you sell, how much that it costs, they can make an informed decision to decide to buy. It's exactly how we buy groceries at the store. The grocery sits on the shelf, the price is sitting there, and we can decide, are we going to buy it or not? So this book turns selling into a very simple 5-step process on how to do that. And in these 5 steps is you can look at it and go, where did the sale fall through? Was it, which one of these 5 steps did I not do for that to disappear? Or at what point did that happen? So if you know where it fell through, you know where to fix it. If you know where it happened, you can go, great, I'll just keep doing more of that. I'll just follow the steps in order. When I get to that point, that should work from there. And you really only just need to follow that step. And there's not a product that this 5-step system doesn't work for. So it becomes great for everybody. It gives confidence that if I follow the system, I can sell stuff. If I follow the system, I can sell stuff. It's very exciting.
Wonderful. So it's a system that's going to help people. I wanted to acknowledge that Kylie Manwaring has a comment, particularly going back to your earlier point about buying from friends. She says, that's so me. I love books, especially ones friends and family have written. I have so many books I haven't read yet, and I love hard copy.
Yeah, I love the hard copy. I'm kind of one of those weird freaks with my book. You can only buy it from me. So it's not on Amazon. It's not anywhere else. You just buy it directly from me. I had someone yesterday ask with my original book and said, I like to read it on Kindle. Gone, yeah, well, this is a resource. You just has to sit with you so you can pick it up whenever you like and have a bit of a look through. That's something that you can just carry around. And he's like, all right then. Actually, I kind of like that idea. So it's but I get to sign every single copy as well. I know who's got it. So yeah, it's kind of a weird system, but it seems to be working. If you know what you're doing.
I think it's a great lesson in imperfect action. Like, so many people want to write a book one day and they spend a lot of time sending manuscripts out to publishers, and then they get rejection letters, and then it goes nowhere. And as you know, I'm a writer, and actually I'm working on my second book as well, and I know you're very big on talking about it, but there's a reason I'm not talking about it yet, but will be shared very, very soon. I'm very excited to share it once I have this news. But what often happens is you get a couple of rejections and you stop. And I actually had quite a number of rejections earlier this year and last year. which I don't talk about publicly. I get upset for a little while and then I kind of reorient and I go forward. What is incredible at the moment is the huge growth in the self-publishing movement. And it used to be, that self-publishing was an option that, wasn't as good. It looked a bit amateurish, but it is huge now. And there are more and more authors who are choosing to self-publish so that they can retain creative control, and also too that they can retain the royalties, because they don't necessarily want to give away all of that. So it's quite a movement, I believe, now.
Yeah, so I self-publish mine. So I can go on my experience. I self-publish mine because I didn't go to the trouble to find out what's involved in an actual big publishing company. I just want to write the book and get it out. And for me, I'm very much that imperfect action. Let's just get it out there and go from there. So I'm not necessarily into having it perfect. I just want people to have the information. Now, this is great for something like mine, which is a sales book. It's a how-to. In regard to, it doesn't have to be perfect in that if you can follow the steps, right? So if there's something that's wrong in it, I'm going to get the feedback anyway. And so I figured if I get it out in the first edition and there's something that's not quite right, then it will come back to me and I can fix it in the second edition. That was my initial thought, right? And I was anxious because I'm a talker, not a writer. So I was anxious about getting it out. The first, like someone had said to me, can I read over it first and I'll just, go through it. It's, if anyone knows Dan Holiday, he's a speaker coach. So he used to come to Business at Breakfast. He does at Queanbeyan. And he's a speaker coach. And he said, can I go over and read it? And I was a bit anxious going, nah, because if it comes back in red pen, I'm not going to be happy with this. But anyhow, I let him have a bit of a read and it didn't, I'd sort of put stuff in structured quite well. So for me, the order was there. I was quite happy with it. I wasn't going to go through these massive many drafts and have go through a publishing house and check it out that way. I thought, what's the fastest way I can get this done, and can I do it all myself? So I rang around a few printing companies. I went to printing companies, not actually understanding the difference between a publisher and a printer. And I went to printing companies thinking it was the same thing. Can't I just call them myself? And I ended up, so I was going to just one particular one that I Googled. They were really easy to chat to. And I ended up out in the country at the time of me writing that. So I was in Cooler. It was a small country town, 2 hours from Dubbo. And I'd become friends. The first person I'd become friends with, she owned the newspaper office, right? And it's called Outback Express. And she owned the newspaper office. And she happened to say, who are you getting it printed through? And I've gone, I just found this company online. And she said, all right then. I said, why do you ask? She said, because we print books. Really? She said, yeah, well, we're a printing company. You do the newspapers? And she said, yeah, so we can print anything. I've gone, who knew? So I decided, me with networking, stick with the network. So I went and got them to do it. And it was a really interesting process to get a book printed through a newspaper office. They follow your direction very easily. They did the front cover for me. I said, I don't know, this is what I want, the graphics. And they just did it. They put it together. They've gone, well, we do the graphics all the time with the newspaper. Why can't we do that? Oh, okay. They follow instruction easily. So when I wanted something changed, I get to advertise them on the back. So I advertise them on the back. So if you see they are Outback.
Wow.
Right. And so now I get to say, so I've had 350 of the books printed through them, right? I get to say I help rural New South Wales, because by being someone who doesn't live in town, print my books through them, this newspaper office does the newspapers for all of Cooler and the surrounds. So it does Cooler, it does Dunedoo, it does all the small places. And their news. Now, the interesting thing about newspaper offices in small country towns is if the newspaper office faults, the whole town will fault, because nobody has any way of getting news, because it's all done through the newspaper. So now I get to say, actually, my outside money gets to go in to help keep afloat Dunedoo and Cooler and all these small towns. So, and then, my goal is, I'll eventually, sell 1 million copies, and I get to say 1 million copies went through newspaper office. How cool is that? Like, so that's my plan and goal. And so looking for other little places to just get started, get it done. And I figure any mistakes are done. So in the very back of my book, Serena, I have a list of people that I network with, because in this getting known, it's about networking. So I wrote all these people that I network with, and I wrote their contact details. Now, if anything's changed in that next edition, I can just take out the ones and they'll just change it for me. Sometimes when you go through a publishing house, if you want one change, you have to go back through that whole publishing stuff again. In a different setup, in the printing setup, they just go, yeah, no problems, make the change. We'll just run it back through the system and just print it off again. So it's a completely different setup. And it's just interesting to see the different ways of which you can get your manuscript out to the world, and whatever it is that you want to do. So yeah, there's many different options.
Thank you for that. So Jackie Owen has said, love the work your dollars are doing, Misty. Kylie has said, awesome. I love that. And Janine has said, I am all about imperfect action too. So am I, Janine. I have an imperfect action sign on my fridge. It's the second one because the first one just sort of started, the felt pen started to run a bit. It had been there so long, and the current one's all curled up in the edges. So I need to put a new one out too. But, I think this is the problem, with the traditional publishing industry, is it kills off creativity, because if you don't sort of meet a narrow kind of niche that they think might exist, they're sort of not interested. But, it's really important to keep your creativity and your dreams alive. So
if I can say something on that imperfect action, in regards to pre-selling, while it might be imperfect action, and we get to use me as a great example, right? And if we know Serena, if she's writing a book, it's going to be, more definitely perfect compared to mine. Like, mine's just flying right?
No, I'm not perfect.
She likes, but it will go through all those editing processes to go through everything before it goes published, right? Now, there's a difference. So writing my second book, right, I know to pre-sell it, and yet I'm starting to write it. I put a post out on Facebook and said, hey, here's the link. So I made a link, and I thought I'll just put it out there and have a bit of fun with that. I've sold 20 copies already. And if anyone knows Angie, the Bling Angel, well, she went out, she saw it, and she wrote to people too. So I've sold 20 copies, but I'm not trying just yet. And one side of me, and just speaking to Serena before we came on, one side of me is like, yeah, I should be doing that, but I'm writing the book. And the other side is like, okay, I'm not ready to do that yet. And we all sit there on both sides. Understand this, though, with imperfect action, right, is there is still perfect action in regards to pre-selling, which is called focus. So you are either focused on selling the book, grab those sales now, and then you go back to focus writing on the book, and then you go back to focus selling the book. So at the moment, so the weekend that I started 2 weekends ago, I focus on, I'll send a message out and see what comes of it while I sit there and write the book. And now might go, oh, this is so exciting. I really want to sit down and sell it, but I've got the thoughts in my head that need to be out. So I cannot focus on selling because I can't do both at once, right? So, and when it comes to pre-selling, how you pre-sell is if you focus on pre-selling, not, oh, well, I'll haphazardly come and go, and then, I'll do all the other work in the background. Like, you have to decide, I'm going to do this much right now, send the message out to everyone, see what comes of it. So you write a list of people, and then you ask that list all in one go, like one at a time, but go, do you want to buy? There's no point going through 10 on a list of 100 and go, I'll get back to the next 10 and the next 10. You decide to do the 100, right? See what result comes from that, so that the next time you focus on the pre-selling, the first people that buy are now off that list of 100, and now you're focused on the next way you are going to get your message out to the group that's left. So there is very focused stuff on how to pre-sell, and then you can go back, do some other things, and then go back, focus hard, and then go back and forth. So there is work involved.
And what about communicating with people who've made those early purchases? Presumably it's going to take you a while to write the book and to get it edited and to get it published, and all those sorts of things. And as you know, we've got a mutual friend, Angie Rassi from Find Your Bling, who sold her board game last year, and then was hit by a supply chain disruption. So it took a lot longer than she had originally expected to arrive. So what do you do when those sorts of things happen? How do you keep people engaged?
Yeah, you let them know. you just keep them up to date with how it's going. So with Angie, I think she started to pre-sell. She had an idea it would be out September or October. I think she was pre-selling from, when did I meet her? About July or August, right? So about July. And then she thought, I'll be there in September. And then October rocked around. And then December. The hardest bit of pre-selling and things becoming later and later. Same with me. My book plan for my book was it was going to be out in August. It didn't come out to the following March. And I had over 100 people that were waiting. I just had to write them and say, turns out this whole book thing, I was honest, this book thing takes longer to write than what I thought. Here's the message that came back. Of course it does, Misty. We weren't really expecting you to have that done within a month anyway. Oh, good, it'll just be done when it's done. And it was the same with Angie with her game. So as the person who's pre-selling, the author, the creator, the creative person, for you, it's inside you going, oh my God, I'm failing so much and these people are relying on me. From then they're going, I'm just so excited that I've got mine already. If it takes longer, it takes longer. So I know with Angie, when she was getting to Christmas, she was getting anxious. Oh my God, I can't even get it out in time for Christmas. As one who was buying one of the first copies of her game, I'm like, don't worry about it. I don't even care when I get it anymore. I'm so excited that I'm getting one. I don't care if it takes 6 months, 12 months, whatever it is. I don't assume it's not going to happen. I just understand that things are out of your control and there's nothing that can be done about it. Everybody suffers from the same thing. There's nothing that can be done. And so from a buyer's perspective, for the salesman to keep in contact with the buyer to say, oh my God, I'm sorry, but, and I'm so embarrassed to go, what does it even matter? I had one guy who bought my book. It took 2 years before I could give it to him. I didn't give it to him until, I don't know, maybe the beginning of this year, end of last year. And it took about 2 years because it took that long for me to run into him. He moved a few places. I sent it out. It disappeared. And I finally had lunch and gave it to him. And you know what he said? I'm just so excited that I finally get it. I just had to wait 2 years longer. But, you know, and it happened. I got it. Everyone else has read it. And he's like, I don't care. I finally got my copy, you know. Turns out people aren't bothered. As long as you remember them, they're not bothered.
That's really good advice. And obviously, you know, this is, you know, there are some people who are not so honest. So you have to, you know, be really, you know, careful to keep people along the journey. And while we're on the topic of writing too, next month is the National Novel Writing Month. Mo. I always have to say that out in full because it gets very confusing. So this has been going for a number of years. It happens annually in November. I think in April they also have a camp, NaNoWriMo. But if anyone wants to join me to write a novel in a month, yes, it can be done. And a lot of people do it every year. Let me know. The object is not to have it perfect. The object is just to get over procrastination by giving yourself a crazy goal.
That's really cool. I find that really, really exciting, Serena. I think that's great. Well, I'm writing, so it gives an opportunity to sit down and go, how many words can you actually get done, right? Because we can give ourselves excuses to, oh, I've got to do those few things first before I sit down. And sometimes it's important to declutter a few things, you know, to be able to sit down and relax. And at other times it's important to just go, if I don't just get started, like this will just go on forever and I'm never going to get started. Get some words out. There is a writing process. Mel Robbins says it in the 5-second rule. She said what she learned a thing, it's called positive procrastination. She had a plan to write her book and she said she would start writing, she'd do all this stuff and then she'd put it in a drawer. She discovered she'd put it in a drawer, she'd get distracted for a couple of days. When she'd come back, she would reread over it and then go, oh, there's some changes I need to happen there. That was good, that was bad. Let's toss this out and changes. And as she started doing this, where she wanted to write every day, she discovered that this positive, it turned out to be positive procrastination with the artistic work of creating something was it actually needs to be put aside. So you need to get some writing done, put it aside. Your mind will marinate on it while you're doing other things for a time. And then when you pick it up, you get that chance to do it better. And I followed that in the end with my first book. And it did, the writing become better because you go back and rather than try and write it all at once, but do spend time, get the words out no matter how hard it is, then pack it aside, go back a few days later and get the good bits, toss out the bad bits and just improve, go from there, you know.
And so how many books have you already pre-sold?
So I've sold 20 at the moment, I'm not trying. My Noah, so he's 9. He's been watching YouTube just while they're in lockdown. And he said he was watching a video the other day and he said, Mum, I know you're a salesman and I know that you teach it. I'm watching the video of this guy who gets a penny and he turns it into $1,000 within 24 hours. And he gets a penny and he goes up to a person and says, do you have a pen? Can I swap the pen for a penny? And so he does that. And then he gets the pen. And he says, can I swap the pen for $1? And then he does it sometimes. And so he goes back and forth doing this. And over 24 hours, he turns it into 1,000. He said, Mum, I don't reckon you could do that. And I said, if I followed his system, I reckon I could. And he said, how many books do you need to sell for $1,000? And I said, 34. And he goes, we're going to do it. What's involved? So it's interesting to sit with a 9-year-old. It's going to happen in a couple of weeks' time. I'm going to sit with Noah, is going to sit there and he's going to learn, what does it take? Like, you can't write to 34 people and expect it to happen. You've got to have a big, long list. There's structure. You've got to have a list. You've got to be able to get to them. How are you talking to them? How are you going to follow up? How are you going to make that happen? So it will be interesting to sit with a 9-year-old and watch this unfold. And yet it's only 34. Right? But 34, $1,000 sounds like, wow, that's amazing. It's all going to go back into getting the book made, right? So you need at least 100 books sold to even look into getting a book printed. So that's your minimum goal to start with, is to get a book printed. It's going to cost you at least $3,000. So those are the little things you've got to look into as well. Pre-sell that many. But if you've got 100 books sold before it's printed, how good are you going to feel then when everything doesn't sell, say at the launch? You go, you know what? I've already sold 100, so clearly I know what to do. I've already worked out how to do it. I just have to follow that system now that it's made. And the pre-sales gives you a system moving forward rather than, oh, nobody wanted it, I give up. Chuck it in the garage, it's never going to get sold again. So it reminds you to talk about it as well. So it's exciting.
Excellent. So now one final question. How can people buy your book?
Okay, so current one you can get from me. It's 2021. So I'm doing a 2021 experiment. You can find me on Facebook. I do. If you Google me, I have my business page. So if you Google me, I have my contact details will show up there. So it's Misty Henkel, sales trainer. For the next book, you can, again, same way, say, I want your first book, or you can say, I want your second book. And then so it's either text message, my phone number shows up. My email address is really simple, mistyhenkel@gmail.com. So Misty, Misty, Henkel, Henkel @gmail.com. Just write, I want a book, or I want your first book, I want your second book. And you go on the list for the second book. I send you an invoice and you're on the list, good to go. And you get one of the first ones.
Excellent. And Misty also does group sales classes that go all year. They are not expensive. They're very good value. I mean, a lot of people spend a fortune on really, flashy sales courses that, are really, I think some of them are a little bit shonster, to be honest, but, Misty is the real deal. So Misty, after this chat, can you make sure that you put all your details in the chat so that everyone can find you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Serena. I will absolutely put my details in the chat.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Oh, you're welcome. I love it. Thank you so much. See you guys.